And we're live. Welcome back to the Weekly Roundup, the place where we unpack what's been going on in the yoga and wellness world and what we've been coaching our clients through. I'm joined today with my lovely and amazing colleagues, Carol, DJ Carol, the mysterious one, our newest coach, Bridget, who's getting ready to pack up and move all the way over to Scotland and run her business remotely, and our fearless leader, Josh Vero, who always has something, never, what am I trying to say? I don't know, always has something to say, never fails.
I don't know.
Never
what are
fails
you trying to say?
I don't know. Tell us about your t-shirt, Josh. Nailed it.
You know what? I got this t-shirt because there's the cooking show, Nailed It, which I love. I watch it with my girls. It's, Tara, it's like right up your alley. You'd love this show.
Okay.
And long story short, the neighbors of my father-in-law were having a garage sale and they had clothes, and this shirt was there. And I was like, this is the dumbest thing ever, but I can't not go buy this shirt for a nickel. So there you go. A shirt story for the day. The devil is in the details.
Oh, yes.
The devil is in the details. Hence, nailed it. No, I just mean, this has been coming up a lot recently, and I think it's because we're moving into summer months in the Northern Hemisphere. Also, market-wise, the kind of traction that all boutique fitness is getting right now is really kind of fascinating. Seems like it's kind of cooled a bit in terms of like new people coming in and what's working in marketing and stuff. We can come back to that in a minute. But what I'm experiencing with the few people that we're talking with is we put something in place, or they put something in place, and then we're finally checking on the results 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 a year, months later. And then when we go and look at it, we realize what was put in place is happening, but like not all of it. Like some of the little details aren't happening. And so in our coaching program, we have, in our phases, different steps, but the ending step in basically every phase is that we then measure and optimize. And I would just point out that most studios out there don't do this step. It's like, okay, it was this huge ordeal for me to write this email and text message sequence for my intro people, blah, blah, blah. Now it's up and going. And then we come in and it's like, well, when's the last time you looked at that? What's working or not? They have no idea what's working or not, and they haven't looked at it in 2 years. Or we had a client the other day that we were talking with, and it was like this one it's a small thing, but it's like this one step in their first visit flow just wasn't happening. And like wasn't happening, not like they're like, I'm not sure, that would already be enough to go and really audit it. It was their like lead teacher was saying, oh, we've never done that. And like it's been there in their process the whole time. So I guess the point just is we're so quick as an entrepreneur to want to do the new thing or work on the next thing. And sometimes that in itself becomes the problem because you're moving on before you've looked at like the stuff we did. Is it actually working? Is it even happening to its fullest, ability? Are there any little tweaks that I can put in place? So the devil's in the details. I guess that's it. Well, have a great weekend.
Well, yes. Yeah, I 100% just, like I was on that call yesterday with you guys, and it was surprising because, that was a big step that had been overlooked. And so, and I tell clients all the time is like when we make a change, particularly a big change, you have to stay on it. You have to stay on it until it's like your yoga practice, until it becomes second nature. And even then you have to go back, like you say, and refine it and see, in fact, I just did this with a client. We did a review talking about emails. She was asking about emails, and they went in, she had her lead assistant go in and go through the email, the sequences, the primary email sequences they have, and went in each of those emails would go in and say, how many opens did they get? Right? What was the open, how many were sent? how many were opened, and if there was a call to action, how many clicked. And so we did that for the whole sequence, and then we did a review of it. And we realized that, okay, some of the emails were just like completely not performing. Well, what can we do? Some of it was just, let's look at the subject line. Is the subject line compelling enough to open? Is the call to action clear? Is it compelling? Is the call to action compelling to want to click on it? So that was something, I mean, when was the last time you went through and did that? Actually, every email, most softwares out there will have the performance metrics for every individual email. And this is something that I've been working with a lot of clients, on their organizational charts or their accountability charts. And in there, looking at one person, that is their part of their responsibility, is they are the email, maybe not so much the one who writes the content but they're the one, that person knows how to use the whatever software they're using for their email, whether it's, Journeys and Walla, Marketing Suite, BrandBot, MailChimp, whatever it is. Part of their responsibility is to look at all those metrics to see which emails are performing and which aren't. And so many studios don't do that. Like even like the weekly newsletter and things like that. People are like, oh, people don't read email. Well, I beg to differ. There are people I follow, I get their emails. I read every single email because they're good. They're quality. The subject line is compelling. The content is compelling, right? It's not, and so I do believe email still has a purpose. It's just that, are you making it special enough? Are you making it compelling enough that people want to read it, Josh?
Well, I would just say by extension too, it's the little things with your team where this really plays out a lot. The question to ask yourself, maybe as the leader, manager, owner of a business, is I go on vacation in Bali. What's my confidence level that insert blank is happening? And if it's like, well, yeah, they like kind of do, we got this system and like it kind of happens and they're probably whatever, versus, and the difference, like everyone already knows this difference, even if you haven't experienced it in your business yet. When you're like, I know for sure if someone comes in, Carol's going to say this. Like, it would be so out of character and so weird, and such a random occurrence of events would have to happen for Carol to not pitch this intro or whatever like that. It would floor me. Like, that's the level of confidence that you want to have, because it's not about it being perfect. It's just, again, that like confidence of, is this taking place? And if that's not, then that's the thing to optimize too in your SOP. We seem to think like, oh, I wrote it down this one time and I told my team to do it, therefore it's happening. And we all, like, just hearing myself say that out loud, we're like, there's no chance that that's how that works. Like, it's not what it is. Or to your point, Terry, I wrote all these emails and they're done, and so like people must be opening them and looking at them. I don't need to go back and do anything.
Yeah, I'm always on a loop in my head as a yoga studio owner of like, after maybe a year after we like do all these trainings and we make sure that all the systems are in place, like things start to slip. And I'm always like, is there something I'm doing wrong? Or is it just true? And I want to hear you guys' thoughts on this. Is it just true that like periodically you've got to freshen things up and make sure that things are happening, and that and we have really like a thorough checklist and all this stuff, and still, like, especially with my opportunity sheet, my teachers particularly, like every 6 to 12 months, I have to be like, did everyone forget about our opportunity sheet? So yeah, I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts.
It is true that people deviate from the plan. Like, you will naturally the only guaranteed thing that will stay the same is the fact that everything will keep changing. And so we know that in training your team and your SOPs, whatever, that's exactly the point, is like, it's going to deviate. Even you as the owner who invented the thing will deviate from the plan over time. There's no way around that. So like, that's not even the fight. It kind of is at first. It's just like enforcement and training and etc. But the two other perspectives I would share that I see is, one, does the system itself create accountability for what you want to have happen? So, simple example, someone comes in, do we pitch them the intro or the first offer? Yes or no? Are they using the opportunity sheet? Yes or no? We have a checklist for that. But then, like, if you have an end of shift report that I have to put that in, it's not even that I need to read all the reports so that it matters. It's that it forces me, the person working there, to go backwards and look and be like, did I do this? And look at who are the people. And so, like, the accountability is built into the system itself. So that's one piece of the puzzle I feel like is missed. But then the other is, you could simply say you have to have ongoing training. We talk often about the kitchen knife analogy. You buy a new kitchen knife, it cuts tomatoes, no problem. But then eventually it doesn't. It just smushes them. And then you have to put a lot of effort into sharpening the knife and have a sharpening, equipment to do that. Or if you hone it every single time, then it just doesn't get dull. Like, so it's easier to have that like small effort every single time you use it. So it's like you just need to keep a maintenance level of training on some of your stuff going as well. But the bigger point that I would say is, sorry, Carol. The bigger point is, instead of looking at it like, oh, I'm just going to try to keep everyone doing the same thing, it's more like, I know that we're going to deviate and change, so I'm going to keep training towards us getting better. Like it's not about not being satisfied, but it's like, I trained you on this system and we're doing it. That's just version one of this. In 3 years from now, if we keep training it and honing it, there will be little micro adjustments and tweaks and optimizations because we'll learn from our experience, and it's actually going to get better over time. I think, to your point, Bridget, like a lot of what owners experience is, I put something in place and then it stops happening. We deviate from it. Or I put it in place and I'm just trying to maintain it, but we never actually look at optimizing it. And in an ideal world, it's like we have an ongoing accountability maintenance plan, but also like an improvement plan on what this is over time. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Carol.
what came up for me, it was just very similar, that we talked about this a while ago, and I'm paraphrasing, but it's the moving the salt shaker, like where in a really high fine dining restaurant scenario, everything on that table has a specific place. The salt shaker goes here, and your team is going to continually try to move the salt shaker to a different location. And your job as that leader is to remind them, this is where it goes. This is where that salt shaker goes. So it's similar, it's that ongoing reminder training. And I do believe too, just like what you were saying, Josh, is like, I would want feedback from the team as to how to make this better, right? Over time, it should improve. It shouldn't be slipping, hopefully. But yeah, so I think it's interesting though, where I know we want to give some autonomy to the staff and give them a little bit of like, well, you give them an inch though, and sometimes they take a mile. So that's where you really have to be on top of it. You have to be that fly on the wall. I love doing that in studios. And I love telling my studio owners to go do that, because it can be really eye-opening, and you may have no clue that some weird, crazy shit is happening during that, let's say, like first visit flow, for instance. Like, so you have to check in and move that salt shaker back. Josh?
Yeah, well, the weird shit happening is so true. It's like we just don't realize it's going on. What was coming up for me, Carol, is you're saying that is like, if everyone is implementing on your system and you've gotten good at the existing system, then you have a better judgment point for your results. Like, then you can look at your numbers and say, okay, like I'm confidence level 90% or above that we're doing this like this, it's practiced, it's comfortable. So like it's more difficult to improve within the existing system beyond this point. What are we getting as a result from that? We're still not hitting the metric we want, cool, the system itself needs a tweak. Like that's then the thing to optimize. But I think that a lot of owners, what I see is they do something, they don't actually get good enough at it to get to that point. I mean, good enough across the whole team and in the system itself. And they just start doing something else. Like we don't even get to the optimized phase because we never fully solidified, like my team does this flawlessly every time, and therefore I can optimize it. It's like it's still a little differential between people and whatever. And then it's like, oh, well, I'm just not getting the result and I'm bored of this. Ooh, Facebook ads. We just start to go do this other thing altogether. Hoping that that's going to solve it, which is obviously not the case in many cases.
I was going to add to what you were piggybacking on what you were saying, Carol, is that, over time things will change. The only thing constant in life is change. So then if there are like gaps in the process or things not happening, is it because maybe the people aren't following, or is it that something has changed and there's another way to do it? Or if someone comes up with a better way to do it, and this is where you can get feedback from the team and say, particularly if you're starting something new, it could be like, okay, we're going to do this. Let's see how it goes. Let's get feedback on it. Is this working? Maybe identifying the gaps, and maybe the idea you had that thought was going to be great ends up not being so great. But in the process of doing that trial, sometimes it is trial and error. And then you do have to go back and like, okay, this isn't working as well. And someone comes with an idea. And like, okay, let's, sometimes you do have to do that little bit trial and error to see what is going to work best. And also, is it people aren't doing it just because they don't want to do it? And sometimes there is that as well. And it just never see. I always just go back to Josh, that one of the very first on-sites we did together a couple of years ago, and they had a young woman who was at the front desk. We asked about the cleaning list, and she just went, "Oh, yeah, I know what it is. I just threw it away." Remember that? We were just like,
yeah.
What?
We just looked at each other. We're like, what?
Yeah. So she's like, oh,
we had a detailed cleaning list. I just threw it out.
I just threw it out. I know what I'm supposed to do. I just threw it out. Well, then, of course, it turns out that she wasn't doing all the things on the detailed cleaning list because there's, so there is sometimes just that, I don't know, that we were just sort of like, okay.
That was a funny one. Yeah.
That was a funny one.
The two other thoughts that are coming to mind is one, sometimes in the implementation of stuff, like especially with the team, when you're trying to get your team to do something, this feedback loop that we're talking about, it's really valuable to have this feedback loop from your staff. And asterisks, you can't get good feedback until you've done the thing. And so the reason I say that is it's really common for the team to give feedback on something when we haven't done it yet. It's like, oh, if I ask them to sign up at the end of class, then we might sign them up, and then we sign them up and they didn't sign themselves up. So then if they don't show up, then they're going to be mad if they get the no-show fee. Well, has it happened yet? Well, no, but like, that's what, like, how do we mitigate that? I'm like, let's let it be a problem first. Like, make this be a problem and then we'll solve it. The idea being, to what you're saying, Terry, you get clarity from action. You have to do the thing and you have to optimize it over time to then know, like, okay, well, what would a better way be for our studio? Or what is the more nuanced or specific problem that we're now experiencing now that this is in place? But you can't predict all of those things. You can only discover them. And so you have to take the action first. And then the only other thing I was going to say is, Carol, going back to what you were saying, the micromanagement part, I think, is an interesting one. I'd be curious to your guys' take on this. I've heard this a lot in the last year or two, especially, where the owners say something to the effect of, I don't want to micromanage. Like there's such a strong fear of micromanaging, which I would interpret, at the risk of psychoanalyzing studio owners, I would interpret as, your own fear of someone looking at you and saying that they don't like that you're micromanaging them, and then how you feel about yourself actually being the problem. But there's so much fear in that they're like, a lot of owners are calibrating so far away from any management and leadership. So I don't want to micromanage Carol by checking in on what she's doing. You're like, no, that's being a leader and enforcing your protocols and having accountability, checking in on what Carol's doing, you know? So just redefining like what is micromanagement versus not, and realizing how that seems really charged for owners right now, in my experience.
I actually have two thoughts, but I'm going to limit it to one thought because I'm trying to do one thought. So when we were talking about optimizing and tweaking and all that kind of stuff, and if there is a problem with a process or a system, is I did a post about this a while back, and we talked about it a lot, is when the staff comes to you and they're saying, well, this isn't working. This is when you as a leader can employ what we like to call the 1-3-1 formula. And the 1-3-1 can be a very effective leadership tool, is rather than just coming with a problem, which we see a lot of, is like empowering your team. It's like, okay, well, first identify what really the problem is, because sometimes the problem you think it is isn't the problem. And so sometimes it takes going back and analyzing to see what really is the problem. So what's the problem? And then give me 3 solutions to this problem, and then recommend the solution you think is best. So rather than just coming to me as the owner or the manager and bitching about something, this isn't working, this isn't working, this isn't working, it's like, okay, why is it working? And give me 3 solutions and tell me which one you think we should do. Because that can be a very, very effective and powerful management/leadership tool. We use it here at the YC. We coach to it. And that way people then do feel like they are part of the process. When you're saying, okay, you've identified, now give me a couple of solutions and tell me what you think is best. And oftentimes the people that are doing it can come up with the solution, particularly if they're the ones doing it frequently. You know, maybe it is that they come up with a solution they bring up something valid about the first visit flow that you put into place, but you're not the one on the ground doing it all the time. But someone comes to you and says, well, this doesn't seem to be working, and this is what I think these are things, and this is why, and you do it, it works, great. Then they're owning that process more.
Well, and by extension too, there's the idea that we always talk about, the symptom versus the problem. When you go to write down your 1-3-1, it forces you to slow down and actually look at this. Like the thing that has surprised me coaching in the last probably 3-4 years, where we kind of coach towards systems like this, is how often on the ground we would be like, cool, like build the 1-3-1 on this. The person goes to start writing it down and they're like, never mind, it's not a problem. Like, it's just not a problem at all. It's like, in my mind, this was a problem, and really I'm like, it's not a problem. And or what they write down in version 1, they're like, that's not right. And they identify that like it's a symptom of something else. One statement that we've made before is like, most owners, most studio owners, when they come to us at first, describe a bunch of symptoms, not a bunch of problems. It's very seldom someone gets on their first call or two with us and then they're like, here's the problem that I have. They just describe a symptom they're experiencing.
I was listening to it's reminding me of this podcast I listened to with this this guy who owned like a manufacturing plant or something, and he empowered his whole team. I think they called it, I want to say like a 2-second improvement. Like if there is anything on this floor that you can think of that would, it was either 2 or 10 seconds. It was something really tiny even. And he was talking about this one person who worked for him, and the guy never came up with anything. And he's like, come on, you can't think of one thing? And the guy was like, well, I have to kind of lean over, and it takes me like a few seconds to look and make sure to measure something. And he's like, well, okay, fix it, you know? And so over time, you're just empowering them like 10 seconds or 2 seconds even at a time to make these improvements. And he's like, then everybody's life improves. So I thought that was a really interesting. And he said after that, after he spoke with that guy and they figured out a solution, he became the most like excited and, you know, did more and more and more of that. So just that came to mind when we were talking. So maybe there's room for that in a yoga studio.
That made me think when you said that is the time studies. I mean, there are people that specialize in that. And remember, what's the movie with Tom Hanks where he does it Castaway, right? Castaway, being in Castaway, he works for FedEx, and it's always TikTok. They're always looking to improve processes. And I remember reading, there's a point to this. I remember reading years ago about UPS, did a whole like efficiency study. And so they will only ever try to always make right hand turns, not left hand turns. They will always they will plan their routes because most places know you were not better than it's a good thing, but there's little they can find a negative direction. This open to see how
Yes, I really am on committed and I like with my other just saying like, hey, I noticed you didn't do this. I noticed you didn't do this. I noticed you didn't do this. It can feel like micromanaging because you are like pointing out little things here and there. For me, what my sort of calibration to whether I'm micromanaging or not is like, is the outcome that I wanted being met? Or is the outcome that we've decided as a company needs to be met is met? So one example of me micromanaging is that I told my staff that they needed to like essentially decorate the studio for our member September. And I gave them a budget. I told them, you know, like what we decided on a theme together. It was like flowery, you know, whatever. And I have to tell you, I did not care for the decorations that they chose. I thought they were tacky, and it was a lot of fake flowers, and I hate fake flowers. And it was just like, and there was like this one thing, and I hope they never hear me, but there was like this fake vine like going up one of the pillars in the studio, and I absolutely hated it. But we achieved the outcome we needed. When I really pulled back, I thought about it and I was like, honestly, the only thing I had been hearing from members is how beautiful it looked in the studio. And I was like, okay, that's your opinion. It's not my opinion, but thank you. So like if I had already told them this is your thing, and then I started being like, do you really think these are the flowers that we should pick? Do you really think like that's where this should go? You know, and of course there are little things where it's like functionally this can't go there or whatever. So that would have been micromanaging. We had achieved the outcome we needed, whatever. But on the other hand, to a point that Terry and Josh were making, and Carol actually, about how you can't really evaluate a system until you've put it in place. We recently had been like, okay, these little new student baggies or whatever, they're not doing anything. No one's using the coupons. No one's bringing back in the whatever. We need to change them. And then I found out that everyone's just handing over the bag without showing anything, without pointing out anything that's in there. And it's like, are these really not working? And I'm going to micromanage you. I'm going to tell, or I'm, you know, it's not actually micromanaging, but I'm going to enforce this thing that we decided that we were going to do, which is you have to tell people what's in the bag. You have to bring it out and show them to them. So anyway, that's my thoughts.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing to discern. And I think this is where some of the owners experience a fear around this. Because also, let me say this, the reason to figure out micromanagement in terms of not doing it is for you, the owner. It's not like yes, it's for your team and to empower them, but it's for you. Like your life gets better when you stop micromanaging shit as an owner. So you kind of said this already, Bridget. I would say micromanaging is saying like, I don't trust you to do this, so I'm going to do it through you. Like I'm going to direct everything and just make you do it. That's micromanaging. Versus leadership and accountability would be, I trust you to do this on your own and follow our system. I'll support you and I'm going to measure the results. Because there is an element, it's a hard thing to let go of it, you know, especially in the beginning as an entrepreneur, where if I say, Terry, we're doing this thing and this is the result we're going to get, and then Terry does it Terry's way, but we get that result or exceed expectations, do I really give a shit about how Terry did it? Like if it doesn't debrand us or completely implode something else internally in the culture or something, like what I would have sent 3 text messages and a phone call and she did 2 emails and showed up at their door. Like, I don't care. Who cares? Just did we get the result that we wanted or not? You know? And during the training moment of things, it's not micromanaging to train people to do something towards your system that you put in place. So the giving the gifts out, for example, it's like that it would be micromanaging if I'm like, you are giving the gift out and you are explaining it and you are doing the things, but I'm like, nah, you said this word, instead say this word. And like, oh, what did you say to that person? Make me a little report on it. Okay, next time let's do that. Like when we're beyond training and you're doing that, it's like you're keeping your hands in things that they don't need to be in, versus the team's giving out the baggie, but no one's doing the step of like, hey, here's this awesome gift and there's a coupon in here with this and let's sign you up for your next class, which was the whole point of it. Then the system itself isn't happening. That's not micromanaging. Then that's just managing, like training the team. So I don't know. In my mind, as an owner of a studio, especially this is 10 times more true as soon as you start to expand. As soon as your studio starts to really cook with volume, or you start getting like to 3, 4, 5 locations, you can't micromanage anymore. So you will be forced, so you can sort of future project, you know, as an owner, you'll be forced into, I'm going to put trust in my team to implement on a system, and I'm going to look at the results, and it's going to be result driven. And if we're not getting the result, that's where I'm going to step in and start asking questions, because then I need to discern, like, is it that the system doesn't work? Is it that we're not implementing the system? Like, why are we not getting this result? Because that's the standard that I'm setting, as opposed to, what did you do today? Do it like this, whatever, controlling everything about the person. I like the flower story.
Yeah.
That, you know what, Bridget, that's a good example of how something could be micromanaging or it could not be. And it's the same thing. Like it could be micromanaging to just be like, well, I don't like these flowers, so get rid of these, change that, do it like this. Or it could not be if you were like, here are our brand guidelines. In our brand, when we decorate the studio, it must abide by these 5 rules. And that might spin off of this occasion that you're talking about, where you're like, or to your point, you let it go because you're like, not my flavor, but everyone seemed to like it. It got done. We're on budget.
Yeah, it was fine.
Result. Who cares?
If it had violated any, like, if it had truly gone against anything that I thought was important for our brand, then I would have said something, but it was just some tacky flowers. But there is actually, this is even a bet, I should have said this, there is another tacky flower thing that's happening that has been happening in my studio, that one of my teachers brought in this bucket of flower pens, and they were like made, and like the color of the flower pen, like the flower at the top of the pen, is on brand for us. But like one of my extreme, like the things I care about a lot is like a very clean front desk. Like I don't like anything up there besides these 3 things that I have listed on a sheet. And that fucking flower thing keeps getting put back on the fucking desk. I couldn't believe it when I went back. This was after I'd been living away for a couple months, and obviously then I took more action. But I thought that I had been clear enough, but I hadn't. And yeah, very, very disappointed in that flower. I'm really disappointed in myself. I should have taken clearer action the first time I ditched it, but lots of stuff, lots of tacky flowers floating around.
Well, this also brings up, that's made me think, Bridget, which brings up a good point, is if you do have clear expectations, clear guidelines, clear whatever, clear policies, and you've optimized, you tweak, and everything's there, and you still have 1 and or 2 people who are constantly not doing it, what are you going to do? I mean, that's a conversation I've been having with clients, is like, okay, we have this is what needs to be done at the front desk. This is your job. These are the things that need to be done. The opportunity, all these things that need to be done, and someone is constantly and consistently not following. You talk to them, they say, yes, I understand, very clear, articulated, and they still don't. What are you going to do? Because this is a conversation I just had with a client, and it's like, what are the consequences if someone is not doing these things? If there is this goal they need to hit and they're consistently not hitting that goal, what are you going to do? So that's sort of the flip side of this too, is that when you do have things in place and they are optimized and you have tweaked and you are on it, and something is, and the person's not performing, and you've given them feedback and they're still not, it's like, what are you going to do? And a couple of times people are like, oh, like, because here's the thing, if someone's not doing what they're supposed to do, chances are other people on the team notice it. And then that drags on everybody. So then it comes to, you have to what? Terminate them, fire them, offboard them, whatever you want to call it these days, but you just plain up just got to get their asses out of there.
Terry just loves firing people. Terry's just like,
I do.
They're just fucking fire them.
Well, because lately it has been that a lot. It's just like,
no, it's too prevalent of a conversation. Yeah.
It is.
Terry's just inventing new ways to fire people. They put fucking flower pens on that desk. Axe them.
Axe them. One more time and they're gone.
Axe them. Yeah. Sorry, Terry. I mean, it's just too easy. We got to poke fun at it a little bit. But no, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Yeah. Most studios, unless someone does something wildly inappropriate or wildly egregious, we never axe anyone. And every studio owner out there has heard the hire slow, fire fast, or hire fast, fire fast. Idioms.
Hire slow, fire fast.
Right, there's two different ones, different approach. But the fire fast is the consistent part. Every studio owner is like, yeah. I've even had students tell me like, oh yeah, we totally believe in that. I'm like, cool. When's the last time we fired someone? Well, we've never fired anyone ever. And you're like, well, that's not firing fast. Then that's not firing at all. Like, you're just telling you have the perfect unicorn combo staffs. I'm not saying go and fire people. What I'm saying, though, to your point, Terry, is like upholding a standard.
Yeah.
And tying this to the micromanagement part, like, that's not micromanagement. This is the business, and I have to do that. So you either can or can't hit the standard. It's actually a component of this. If you're actually leading your team and empowering with the system, and let me say this, because in between the lines of what we're suggesting too, there's also the why factor here. If Bridget doesn't want things on the top of the desk, it is acceptable to just be like, we don't put things on top of the desk, full stop. Like, that's the boundary. But if you want your team to feel empowered and remember that, explain why. Like, it needs to look this way. We don't want any barrier between us and the person coming in. There's a small space, blah, blah, blah. So we don't put on stuff on top of the desk. Then that's been said, and then it's either you do that or you don't. But like, that's the clarity line. That's the boundary. It's not a negotiable thing anymore. And so whether you fire the person or not, the non-negotiables, that's what you uphold unapologetically. And for some reason, you know, if someone's not doing this or not doing that, if you know that they know it and you've explained why and you've reminded them, because like whatever, humans are gonna human, they mess up, no big deal.
Humans are going to human.
But like at some point, if you've done it well, the conversation is just, hey, like this is still not happening, or it's happening like this. Like what gives? I don't. And what you to your, I think alluding some of what you're alluding to, Terry, is it's a very real scenario that we experience in studios where you have someone in there where it's like they believe in the product, they like getting paid, working, doing yoga, but they don't want to do what you're saying to do. They don't believe in the way that you're running the business. That's not even to say that they're right or wrong or you're right or wrong, but that misalignment is a fucking huge problem. It is such a bigger problem than you think it is as a studio owner. And so you want to discover that quickly and either get them on board, which can happen, or get them out of there.
Yeah.
And I don't even mean that like maliciously. It's like I only had to fire one person in a studio. Everyone else just left because we had the conversation I'm talking about. We're like, hey, here's what the standard is. This is what's happening. I don't know how to help you succeed anymore. Like we've done all of these things. How do I help you win here? And they would just be like, well, I don't think this is the right fit for me. Cool. See you later. I'll give you 2 weeks notice. I'm like, nope, I'll cover your next 2 weeks. Here's your pay. Don't step foot in the studio again. That I'm being a little extreme. Come and practice. But like, we're done then. But only because you've set it all up ahead of time.
I just had a conversation with a client yesterday, almost what you're describing, and it's front desk, and they've been really working on training the front desk and getting them, you know, they've got systems in place, they've got checklists in place, they've got training, and the person straight up said, I am not comfortable doing this and I don't like it. Straight up said, because
Cool.
they've really been focusing on, you know, upselling from the drop-in and guest passes to their goal offer, and just straight up said, I do not like having these conversations with people. And the owner I was talking to, I'm like, and I said, well, they've just straight up told you that. And they said, but we really like her. She's a great part of the community. And what we talked about is that they are looking, I said, is there another role? She said, yes, there is another role in the organization, which is cleaning, because they pay their cleaners. And I said, well, then great. Then if you still want her as part of the community, it's like we talk about this a lot. Are they, you know, right seat? Are we want them on your bus, but they're in the wrong seat. So we said, yeah. Okay, then the conversation is, you straight up told us this is not something you're comfortable doing. This is a key component of this job. So obviously this job is not a fit for you.
Yeah.
We have this other, would you be interested in this fit? And I'm waiting to hear the outcome of that conversation.
Well, can we just say, Terry, too, that like someone who is willing to say that, I don't like this, I'm not comfortable doing it, basically I'm not going to do it. Thank you so much for telling me.
Yeah.
Like they're doing you such a huge favor. That's not actually a conflict.
No, the incredible part of it was like, the conversation was, should we still keep them? And I'm like, they told you they don't want to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Not in that role, you shouldn't. Go ahead, Bridget.
Not in that role. Bridget, but you're going to say, chime in there.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that I was thinking this, and then Josh kind of said it, but to anyone listening who's like freaking out because they're like, oh my God, I'm going to have to start firing a million people. I also don't fire people very often, because almost everybody quits after you have like a couple straightforward conversations with them. You have the first conversation, which is, hey, help me understand. What I say a lot is like, help me understand how, like, where the breakdown in my communication is to you, because this is what I think I've been telling you to do, and this is what it seems like you're doing. So maybe I am in the wrong here. Like maybe I'm making a misstep here. So help me understand what the breakdown is. And then after that, if it still isn't changed and everything seems really clear, then you have the second conversation, which is like, hey, what the heck is going on? And at that point, almost everybody quits. We just had a situation happen with a front desk. So we had those exact two conversations. Actually, it ended up being like 3 or 4 conversations because we really liked her. And, you know, we didn't want to, but this was the absolute last conversation we were going to have with her of just like, lady, what's going on? And then she quit. And that's almost always what happens because you are just telling them like, hey, this doesn't feel like a good fit. Like, what the heck is going on? And then they realize, oh yeah, this isn't a good fit. And so yeah, you know, firing people, great, fine. But often you don't have to if you just have like, if you are, I think that's, I don't think it's even, I guess my point is, I don't even think the issue for most people is that they won't fire people. I think the issue for most people is that they won't even have those first couple conversations.
Yeah, they're scared of it. They're scared of the tension in the conversation. Which, look, makes sense. Like, who wants to be in tension, especially in your own business? But it's the little micro tension by upholding a standard you have now so you avoid big fucking blow up later. Because we see that as coaches, man, do we see that often. I hate to admit how often this happens. I'm talking, the person's been working for me for 10 years or whatever, and then it's like complete implosion and a lawsuit. Like, fucking derails the business for a year level stuff. Because 10 years ago, we didn't have the conversation that the front desk role is that you got to sell people shit. You know, like it really can spiral like that. So you're right, I think, Bridget, is the fear of that conversation part. The other thing that can happen, which I've experienced too, is when you hold someone accountable, you're like, these are our standards, this is the role, here are the expectations, here's how I'm supporting you, here's why. A lot of people step up. Like, for every person that is like, you know what, this isn't for me, I'm out, which is doing you and them a favor, why would you want someone working for you who hates what they're doing? That sucks. That sucks for them. That sucks for you. That's misaligned with probably your whole vision mission. But for every one of those people, there's someone else who's like, oh, cool. Like, I'm being led and we're doing something positive here. Like, let me get on board and do this. That's how you end up with great employees. I think the other funny way, we've said this in the past, like, thing that I would point out here is, if you describe anyone in your business in any role as, the reason I like Bridget in my business is because Bridget's really great and she really cares a lot about our clients and she really wants to try really hard, and nothing I say about Bridget is result based on the job that they're in, you're basically telling me they suck at their job and you're making excuses for them. And that sounds really harsh, but like in the studio world, man, we see that a lot. Well, yeah, I mean, Bridget doesn't want to sell at the desk and doesn't really sell anything, and also doesn't show up to staff meetings because, you know, she's got a kid at home or whatever. But like, I really like Bridget, and she's been loyal because she's worked for me for 3 years now and whatever else. So like, you might as well say Bridget is a shit employee who's difficult for me to deal with, who doesn't do the job she's hired for, and I'm just going to keep her on and keep paying her. Like, it's the weirdest thing.
It goes back to like studio owners thinking that their employees are doing them a favor by, you know, I'm just happy to have these teachers come and teach for me, instead of being like, no, this is an actual job. You have actual, you know, tasks that I expect you to do. This is the level and the standard that we uphold. You know, that's a very different dynamic, and trying to move from that mindset of, I'm just so grateful to have these people like work for me at this, you know, because I can't pay people enough. So I'm just really happy they're here too. No, I'm standing strong in this. I expect you to do this. I expect you to be at all these meetings. You know, that's a really hard shift for a lot of studio owners. And I think that we see that a lot in our coaching, you know. Yeah, go ahead, Bridget.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Carol, that like one of the shifts so I used to be a very passive studio owner. I felt like I should be grateful that all these teachers teach for me and like all these people work for not a lot of money and like all this stuff. And it like resulted in this just horrific dynamic. And then I went through a really big shift. Part of it was working with Terry, my coach Terry. And part of it was a lot of like very deep interpersonal work that I had to do. Um, and one really shift that I wanted to say in case, you know, anyone is hearing this who is feeling like, oh, that is me. One thing that happened, so one hard truth, first, the bad news, is that there was so much fucking pushback from the original group of teachers that I had when I started to put in stuff. And so like it might be extremely hard. It might be a little bit of a mini burning down if you have built something that kind of functions the way that I was functioning, at least. You can totally get through it. You can totally survive it, you know, we move on. On the other side of that, it's not that not only do I no longer feel, I do feel genuine gratitude for my employees, but not like I'm guilty that I employ them. And all the time, once a week, and I don't even live in the town that my studio is in. One of my employees, both my teachers and my front desk staff, say this all the time. I love working for you. Thank you so much. I've never worked for a studio that my expectations were laid out so clearly that I felt like my work was, you know, that I got good feedback on my work. My teachers are like, I have never had any mentorship in my career and I wanted it so badly, no studio owner. So now I no longer, not only do I have to not feel guilty, but I know that they are grateful to work for me too. And I did need to get like a whole new set of people on my staff because I had naturally attracted people with sort of the same attitude that I'm an attitude that mirrored mine of like, yeah, she's fucking lucky that I, you know, work for her or whatever. So it gets so much better on the other side, but it can be a little bit of a burning down situation at first, but get a coach and you can get through it.
Heck yeah. And this is something we deal with in coaching often. We always talk about the idea of like, of the top 3 problems, staff management is always in the top 3, has been for 2 decades of studio business, and I don't see it changing anytime soon. And it's also like this hidden difficulty. You know, most people who open a studio, I'm just thinking about a conversation I had recently with a Legree studio owner. She was pretty young, and it was like the quintessential scenario of, I really love this thing, and I was doing it a lot, and then I moved to this area where they didn't have one, and then so I'm going to open a studio because I'd like to make my living doing this. And then because I'm popular amongst all these other teachers in this area, they're all going to come with me and teach for me. And then immediately she's experiencing this issue of like, well, now I'm the owner, but now they won't do what I say because they think that we're peers, and now there's this weird tension. And it's like, I didn't expect that. And as coaches, we're all nodding our head like, yeah, obviously, like that's the most common scenario in a story like this. So whatever, long story short, I think, to echo what you just said, Bridget, like, how do you build a rock star team? You stick to your plan, and then you attract the right people from doing that. That's what you have to realize. A really good owner and employee relationship is and should be reciprocal. It can't be that you're just, oh, thank you so much, Carol, for working for me doing this thing. Like that doesn't work. And it can't be the reverse either, where, oh, thank you, Josh, for giving me a job because I don't have enough money. Like that's not right either. There has to be reciprocity in the whole thing. I was thinking as you were talking to Bridget that, like, we've kind of alluded to this already, but just accountability on your team doesn't come at the cost of thankfulness. being lenient doesn't express gratitude. I'll just let you do whatever you want. That's not showing you that I'm grateful for what you do. That makes no sense. If I want to be thankful, I should do that. I should have gratitude for my employees. That doesn't mean I shouldn't hold them to a standard and ask them to do their job either.
I think people will respect you more in time when you do have those clear expectations. I mean, I think generally as human beings that we like the structure, we like to know what we need to do. We like to know that we're helping in a way that is moving something forward. And I think you're doing yourself and you're doing your organization a favor when you do have those clear expectations, because then everybody knows, everybody's moving in the same direction. And then when someone steps out of direction, it's abundantly clear that this is not, that they're not going in the, and it's, again, no shade on them. They're not a bad person. Well, typically, we're going to say most people aren't bad. It's just that they're not a good fit for the organization. So it really does help in your hiring and training and everything when you do have all that stuff mapped out and clearly defined and check in on it. That's the other thing as we talk about is doing those evaluations with your staff, with your team, and checking in with them so that you're not having these things. It's not a set it and forget it, unfortunately. You alluded to that earlier, like we said with auto emails. And it's not a set it and forget it. It's a set it, it's roll it out, it's implement it, it's assess, it's reassess, and you're continually moving that needle and challenging and going towards excellence. Because once you stop, that's when I think the problems happen. When you use the term, when you're resting on your laurels, right? And you as the owner are getting complacent and things like that. It's like you always need to be aware of what's happening and change with the times. I mean, the pandemic taught us nothing else. It taught us that we have to be nimble and we have to be able to adapt and change when, things happen. As an extreme example.
The other thing, Terry, that you're bringing up for me is like, I've heard owners use the term family, like, oh, we're like a family. Less so. That was really common 15 years ago. Circa 2005 to 2010, that was like, it's a family here or whatever. But I guess it depends on what you want. But as an owner of a studio or as a teacher at a studio, do you want to be part of a family or do you want to be part of a rock star team that's mission driven? That's like, do you want to be part of the best team in town that teaches dope classes and is super empowering and changing people's lives? Or do you want to be part of a family? Like, which is it? I guess decide, but from a business perspective, I'm not trying to I already got a family. Like, we can get along and whatever, but just, it's a subtle, but I think important shift that just this idea of, oh, we're like a family here is a weird indicator of some of what we're talking about, of like, which means I'm going to just accept you for who you are and not hold you accountable and not call you up to get better and not like, I'm not going to lead you then, basically.
I was just saying I have worked with my family many, many times, and I strongly advise against it. So if anyone, it's just not what you're going for, I don't think.
Well, I grew up in family business, so I was laughing when when you wrote that, I laughed because it is very different. It is very different. And just totally off tangent is my brother and I worked for my dad. We were both in the business, and eventually we both had an ownership piece. But my youngest sister didn't like it at all because our father treated his kids differently than the other employees. And I loved it when he wanted me to go out and run errands for him and go to the dry cleaner, go this and do that. I'm like, oh yeah, give me some money. I'll go out around town, do all this stuff. My younger sister, she said, if I was so-and-so, he would never ask me to do that. He shouldn't ask me to do it. I'm his employee, not his. She just was like, and I'm like, yeah, send me wherever you want me to go. I don't know. When you said that, it just made me think of that. It just, I had to laugh.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying any shade on the family business model, but if you're just talking about a business you start from scratch, you're like, we're family, and that it indicates, that entire mentality indicates something in my mind. To me, the family businesses that I grew up around, including my dad, we had a chimney sweep business. So like one of my first jobs was to go with him when I was like 13 and carry the ladders around and stuff and help him sweep chimneys. And so, but like I was a shit employee. I was available. That was it. And I didn't mind getting dirty. Like that was the end of that story. Or like family businesses I knew in the town I grew up in too. It was like the quintessential owns the gas station, which also has the convenience store, which also has the one A&W attached to it or something like that. And the family runs the whole thing because we're in a small town and that was the only option. But there was also like a limit to what that business was going to do, you know, or like the family farm that was a dairy farm that to this day looks identical, does the identical business, makes the exact same ice cream. They've got a formula, they follow it, it makes money. Like that's it. That's the end of the story. For opening a studio, I'm not actually sure that's what many owners are going for. Do I want to just like get my family in place and then just ride this thing out for 40 years? I don't think that's actually what people are trying to do. With the superstar team.
You're muted, Terry. We couldn't hear any of it, but your emotions came through with your actions there.
Superstar.
There you go.
Superstar. I love it. Okay.
Okay.
I think that's it for this week. Wow.
I think that's it for this week. Yeah. Is it a wrap?
Let's wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up.
Otherwise, we're gonna start a whole nother subject. We'll be here for 3 more hours.
All right, so we're here every Thursday. We are still trying to get we're supposed to be live. Eventually we will be live. And but you can find us also, the recordings on Facebook, as well as we also have our what do we call it? Our Spotify. We have a channel. We have what do we call it?
Podcast?
Yeah, it's called Studio Cult
Studio
TV
Cult
on
TV.
Spotify and YouTube.
Yeah.
So you can subscribe. You can listen on YouTube. You can listen on Spotify at Studio Cult TV. Check us out. All the episodes, past episodes, all the things YC are out there. So thanks again for tuning in. Everybody have a lovely rest of your day, and we will see you in our next episode.
Bye.
Bye.